How's it going, guys? My name is Josh, and on this episode of Airsoft Tips and Tricks, we're going to be covering a very big topic that is LiPo batteries. There's a lot of information out there about these, but I want to cut through all of it to give you guys exactly what you need to know to make the most out of your Airsoft LiPos on the field. Now, with that being said, there is a great post by Jaffner425 on Reddit. I'm going to put a link below, but if you're like me and you want to know all of the nitty-gritty details about LiPos and all of the nomenclature, definitely check that out. But if you just want to know the basics, stay tuned because we're going to cover all of it so you can get the most out of your Airsoft LiPos. To kick things off, let's assume that we know nothing about LiPo batteries. So the first question you should have is, well, what is a LiPo battery? And it literally just stands for lithium polymer battery. The second part of that question should be, why do I want this for my airsoft guns? And it's a bit of a three-part answer. The first part's going to be, these come in a ton of form factors, which means you can get brick types that are going to fit inside of your PEC boxes. You can get longer, skinny ones that are going to go inside of your AK platforms that are really going to help save some space. You can get ones like this, as well as butterfly ones that are going to do great in your M4 platforms. LiPos come in enough form factors to suit any type of rifle that you have without much problems. The next part of this is going to be that LiPos are very cost effective. You can get these for a very cheap price point. So picking up 2, 3, 4 of them for your airsoft games, especially those longer games, is going to be a great idea with these. The next part is going to be that these have a very consistent output rate, which means you're going to get very snappy trigger response and rate of fire right up until the battery starts dying. So that is a great thing to think about when looking for LiPo batteries. So now that we know what LiPo batteries are and what they're good for, let's cover some of the common terminology that you're going to see when shopping for these. The first part is going to be volts. Now, this is a 7.4 volt battery, and you will also see 11.1 volt batteries on the market. Generally speaking, these two are the industry standard. It doesn't mean there aren't other options, but that's generally what you're going to see when you're playing. Next on the list is going to be the mAh rating. The mAh rating is very important because it basically means how much battery life you're going to have, to the best of my knowledge. As you increase this mAh rating, you will also increase the thickness of your battery. So if you have a small buffer tube that you need this to fit into, take that in consideration because you may buy a battery that's too big and it simply just won't fit. Next on the list is going to be the C rating. It's usually designated by either 15C or 20C, something along those lines, but for the most part, the general logic is the higher your C rating is, the quicker your trigger response is going to be, and the faster your rate of fire is going to be. So take that into consideration when you're deciding what battery type you need for your gun. All right, guys, so now that we know what a LiPo is, and what all the terminology on the front means, let's jump into some general tips and tricks before we jump into what one should you get. My first tip is going to be get a smart charger. These are very affordable and will do the job of charging LiPo batteries very, very well. It's entirely what they're built for, and they will keep your batteries running in tip-top shape so you won't be shelling out extra dollars down the road if your batteries start having issues. So spend the money on a smart charger, you're not going to regret it. Next up on the list is housing your batteries. You will see a lot of players use silver bags that are LiPo sacks that you put the batteries inside of. I generally would recommend using those, as if you're like me and you've spent any time on the internet, you've definitely seen these swagway videos where they're exploding and flames are shooting out the sides. That is a LiPo battery inside of those, and that is some of the damage that it can potentially cause. So keep this in mind. If you're not going to put it inside of a LiPo sack, leaving it on your desk or in your gear bag is definitely not the best place for it. If there is any issues, you don't want it to catch on fire, so keep these in a safe place. Next on the list is, how do I know when my battery is dying? Now, this can be done a couple of ways. The first way is by listening to your gun as it starts firing. If your rate of fire starts to slow down or sound slowish or chugging, that is basically when you know that your battery is getting low. From there, simply pull the battery out, swap in a new one, and you're good to go. Take the old one, throw it in your LiPo sack, go home, charge it, and that's all you have to worry about. The other way to do it is simply buy a small battery tester. You can plug it in and it'll tell you how charged your battery is. Those are two effective ways. For me personally, I usually just listen to the rate of fire. If my gun starts sounding slow, I know I gotta swap my battery out. Now, one quick last tip that I wish I had known when I first started is that if your battery gets puffy, then that usually means you have a dead LiPo on your hands. Next step would be to simply stop using the battery altogether and take it to a center to be disposed of. Don't just throw it into your trash can and forget about it. Remember, that could cause a potential fire and nobody needs that happening. So be responsible and take your LiPo battery to be disposed of. And for the last question, which I know you guys are thinking is, Josh, just tell me what battery I should buy for my gun. And it's the one that I'm holding right here. I would recommend that you get a 7.4 volt LiPo. I think 1000 mAh, 1200, 1300 in that range is a great mAh rating. You can pick up 2 or 3 of them and they will last you for an entire day, no problem. Now the C rating is kind of up to you if you want to have a 15C or a 20C dump. It really depends on what you want. Honestly, a 20C 7.4 1000 mAh LiPo battery will work fine for almost every single airsofter in the industry. Now, if you're like me and you want to use an 11.1 volt LiPo, here are some things to take into consideration. A 7.4 volt LiPo is going to work with every single gun if you've spent roughly more than $80 to $90 on your gun. If you have an LPEG, this may not be the best option for you, but if you have entry-level guns all the way up to very high-end guns, a 7.4 is going to be just fine for everything that you need to do. Now, if you're like me and you want to push the performance of your gun a little bit, here are some things to take into consideration if you want to get an 11.1 volt LiPo. I would not recommend that you use those on lower end guns. I'm talking anything under $200. Around $200 is when you start getting a better version gearbox. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that an 11.1 is going to be totally fine to use on those guns, because there are going to be issues occasionally. Remember that as you increase the voltage, the gun is going to be firing faster and harder, and that means your parts are going to be being used a lot more, which is going to wear and tear on the gun. Higher end guns obviously have higher build qualities, and they can handle an 11.1 volt LiPo battery very, very easily. Another 2 things to take into consideration with an 11.1 volt battery is getting a MOSFET or wiring your guns to DINs. Those 2 things are a whole separate video in themselves, but those are some things that maybe you want to take into consideration. So to make it very, very basic, every entry-level player / airsoft player can benefit from using a 7.4 volt LiPo if you don't already have LiPos in your arsenal. If you're a more advanced player and you have spent some money and upgraded your gun and you want to get more performance out of it, you can check out an 11.1 volt LiPo. Just keep in mind the wear and tear in your gun is going to increase as time goes on, which could lead to failures. And that's the basics of LiPo batteries. I hope this has been a helpful video for you guys, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I know this is a bit of a big topic, and I'll do my best to help you guys answer any of those questions. If I got anything wrong in the video, I apologize. I tried to do as much research as I could, but there's simply a ton of information about batteries and types and chargers and everything like that. So if I got anything wrong, let me know in the comments below as well. As always, guys, my name is Josh, and I hope that you've enjoyed the video, and we'll see you guys on the field.